A strange silence filled the command bridge of the Imperial cruiser Vornis. 4 weeks, the fleet had patrolled the edges of known space, scanning for smugglers or rebels, but the deep scanners had caught something unusual. The object first appeared as a faint dot against the black curtain of space. The officers at the scanning station leaned closer, checking the numbers twice, then 3 times. At first, they thought it was a sensor glitch. But the dot grew sharper, brighter, and it moved with purpose. The captain of the Vornis, Commander Cyril, stood tall as the reports came in. His voice was calm, but his eyes narrowed. "Identify the object," he ordered. "Unknown configuration," one officer replied. His hands shook slightly on the console. "It doesn't match any registered Imperial vessel or Allied designs. Sir, it's old. The hull composition, it looks like it should have been dust 1,000 years ago." The crew exchanged nervous looks. The Empire had records of every ship, every civilization under its watch. A ship that shouldn't exist was impossible. And yet, here it was, closing the distance, moving with a speed that defied its supposed age. "Bring it on the main screen," Cyril commanded. The image blinked onto the massive display at the front of the bridge. A massive ship drifted closer, its hull scarred, its design alien and ancient, and yet there was something unervingly human about it. Its sharp edges, the long forward spires, the armored plating, this was no relic drifting lifeless in space. Its engines burned hot, steady, powerful. It was alive. Whispers filled the bridge. Impossible. Humans were extinct before the Empire ever rose. The statement hung heavy in the air. For centuries, humans had been nothing more than a footnote in history. A species that had burned bright and vanished, leaving behind only ruins on scattered planets. No records told of their fleets still moving, no whispers of survivors. The Empire's historians insisted humanity was gone. But now, before their eyes, a human warship was coming straight at them. The captain felt a cold weight in his chest. "Signal the ship," he ordered. "Open a channel." A communications officer tapped quickly, sending every known frequency. Static answered them, crackling, then silence. The ship did not slow. Its weapons powered up, old designs, yes, but terrifying in their raw strength. Energy cannons the size of city towers lit faintly across its hull. The crew tensed. 1,000 scenarios flashed in their minds. Was it a ghost ship? Was it automated? Was it the return of a people the Empire had tried to erase? Cyril's second in command, a woman named Relis, whispered, "If it is human, then the stories are true, the ones they told us as children, about how humans fought wars the galaxy still fears." Her words sent a chill through the crew. The legends were well known, humans who fought with desperation, who built ships that tore apart fleets 10 times their number. Humans who never bowed, even in their final hours. The Empire called them extinct for a reason. But what if they had not died? What if they had only been waiting? The mysterious ship drew closer, filling the screen with its size. It was not just large, it was colossal, dwarfing the Vornis. Every scar on its hull told a story of battles survived, not lost. The captain clenched his jaw. "Battle stations. Raise shields. Prepare the fleet." The alarms screamed across the ship as soldiers rushed to their posts. Fighters launched into the void, tiny lights surrounding the cruiser like sparks in the dark. The Empire was strong, powerful, and feared. But the sight of that ancient ship made even hardened soldiers hesitate. As the distance closed, the sensors screamed new readings. Thousands of life signs. Human. Living, breathing, human. The bridge fell into silence, hearts pounding. And then, at last, the ship spoke. A voice, old yet strong, broke through the static. "This is the battleship Eternal Resolve. We answer the call of our people. Stand aside, or be remembered as the first to fall." The crew froze. The legends were no longer legends. Humanity had returned, and they had come armed with their forgotten fleets. The captain realized the truth in that instant. Whatever the Empire had believed, Whatever history had recorded, it no longer mattered. A storm was coming, carried on the steel wings of a species thought long dead. The human ship powered weapons, its cannons glowing like the eyes of an awakened beast. The Empire had spotted a ship that should not exist. And it was closing fast. The Vornis shook as its sensors wailed louder. The human ship, the Eternal Resolve, was now only a few thousand kilometers away, its enormous frame blotting out the stars. Every officer on the bridge felt as if they were standing in the shadow of a monster. It should not exist, yet it was alive, breathing with the energy of forgotten power. Commander Cyril's voice was steady, but his heart raced. Lock weapons. Do not fire until I give the order. The crew obeyed, though many of them hesitated. Their fingers hovered over control panels, their eyes fixed on the screen. There was no mistaking it now. The scanners confirmed the life signs again and again. Thousands of humans lived aboard that ship, men and women from a race the Empire itself had declared gone forever. Relis, his second-in-command, leaned closer. Sir, if they survived in secret, if they hid from us all this time, what else could they have kept hidden? Her question gnawed at Cyril's thoughts. Humanity had once been small compared to the empires of the galaxy, but they had fought like demons, building weapons that rivaled gods. If even one battleship had survived, could there be more? The comms officer gasped. Incoming message, direct signal. The bridge went silent again. The voice returned, rough and commanding, filled with authority that made the blood of every soldier run cold. You sit in the path of the human fleet, the voice said. We gave no warning because warnings are wasted on conquerors. The Empire wrote us into history as extinct. Yet here we stand. You will choose now, step aside or be destroyed. The words struck harder than any cannon. It was not only a threat, it was a declaration. Humanity had not just returned. They were ready for war. Cyril gritted his teeth. They think they can frighten us with ghost stories. Prepare the fleet. Signal Admiral Terran. The Empire will not kneel to relics. But deep inside, he felt a crack in his confidence. The Empire had always crushed its enemies with sheer numbers, but this ship, this eternal resolve, felt different. Its scars told of countless battles, its silence carried centuries of anger, and its voice spoke of a vengeance long prepared. The human ship moved closer, ignoring the fighters that circled it. The fighters fired warning shots, beams of light cutting across its hull. The energy dispersed harmlessly against layered armor. The ship didn't flinch. It was as if an ancient predator allowed insects to bite before it struck back. Sir! The tactical officer shouted. They're powering weapons. Massive energy built up across the forward cannons. The bridge trembled as the numbers came in. Weapons older than the Empire's golden age, yet stronger than anything in its fleets. Relis whispered under her breath. It's impossible. Those readings shouldn't even exist. Enough, Cyril barked. Target their engines. Fire all batteries. The Vornis and its escort ships unleashed a storm. Dozens of plasma bolts, missile salvos, and beam strikes tore through the void, crashing into the Eternal Resolve. For a moment, the stars lit up with fire. And then, the flames cleared. The human ship still moved forward, shields glowing faintly, its massive body untouched. What the Empire considered overwhelming firepower had barely scratched the surface. Gasps echoed across the bridge. They survived, one officer whispered. No ship could survive that. But the Eternal Resolve did not simply survive. It answered. From its forward cannons, 3 beams of pure energy lanced outward. Each was as wide as a city street, white-hot and blinding. In seconds, 2 Imperial escort ships vanished in explosions, their hulls ripped apart like paper. The bridge crew of the Vornis froze in horror. Sir, they destroyed 2 destroyers with a single volley, the tactical officer stammered. The human voice returned over comms, calm and merciless. This is not your war. This is our return. Leave now, or your empire will remember the humans the way your ancestors once did, in fear. For the first time in years, Commander Cyril felt uncertainty. The Empire had always been the predator. But standing before him was something older, sharper, and far more dangerous. The Eternal Resolve was not just a ship. It was the first shadow of a storm. And the storm was coming. The wreckage of the 2 destroyed escorts drifted like burning wrecks in the dark void. Fire still clung to twisted metal, spreading a sick red glow across the stars. On the bridge of the Vornis, no one spoke. Every officer stared at the massive ship filling their screen. The Eternal Resolve had not only survived the Empire's attack, it had answered with terrifying precision. Commander Cyril gripped the railing in front of him, his knuckles white. He had seen battles before, but nothing like this. The Empire prided itself on control, on dominance, on crushing any threat with sheer numbers. Yet here stood one human ship, tearing holes in their strength without effort. Relis, standing at his side, whispered, "We should pull back. If that ship is only one of many, then we are standing in the jaws of something much larger." Cyril shook his head. "If we run now, the Empire will demand answers. They will call us cowards. No, we need to know the truth. One ship cannot threaten the Empire. It must be a trick." But even as he spoke, his voice betrayed his fear. The communications officer shouted, "Admiral Terran's fleet is responding. Reinforcements inbound. Estimated arrival, 15 minutes." Relief spread across the crew. The Admiral commanded a full battle group, dozens of cruisers, destroyers, and carriers. Against that, even the Eternal Resolve would fall. Or so they told themselves. The human ship made no move to retreat. Instead, it slowed, holding its position, almost as if waiting. The silence felt like a challenge. Then a new voice came through the comms, different from the first. This one was younger, calmer, yet carrying the same unshakable pride. "You do not understand," the human said. "You think we are the ghosts of a dead people. But we are the memory your empire tried to erase. We are not alone. We are the first wave. Behind us, others wait." The bridge crew froze. The thought was unbearable. If this was the first wave, how many more ships waited beyond? Relis's eyes widened. "Sir, they've been hiding, building, preparing for centuries." Cyril snapped. "Enough of your whispers. We face an enemy, not myths. Ready the ship for another strike. If they want war, we will give them war." But deep down, he felt the weight of her words. Humanity had not only survived, it had hidden itself away, sharpening its claws in silence. Minutes stretched like hours. The 2 ships faced one another, the Empire's battered cruiser and the human's ancient giant. The Eternal Resolve did not fire again. It simply watched, engines glowing like the eyes of a predator holding back its strike. Then the sensors screamed once more. "Multiple contacts," shouted the scanner officer. His face turned pale. "They're not Imperial. They're more ships. Human signatures." The bridge erupted in shouts. One by one, enormous shapes appeared on the edge of the system. Colossal shadows slid from the darkness, their engines lighting up the void. 5, 10, 15 ships. Each as massive as the Eternal Resolve. Each carrying the same scarred armor, the same impossible strength. Relis whispered, her voice shaking. "It wasn't a threat, it was a warning." The human voice returned, steady and merciless. "You cannot stop what has already begun. For centuries, you ruled with fear. You believed humanity was gone. Now we return, and with us comes the reckoning." Commander Cyril felt the walls closing in. His ship, his fleet, his empire, suddenly small, fragile, breakable. The legends of humanity were no longer legends. They had come back, stronger than before. The officer at communications turned to him, trembling. "Sir, Admiral Terran is demanding we hold position until he arrives. But, if those ships attack before then..." Cyril cut him off. "We hold. We obey the Empire. But in his heart he knew. The Empire had spotted a ship that should not exist. Now, they faced a fleet that should never have been. And it was closing fast. The void shimmered with streaks of light as Admiral Terran's fleet arrived. Dozens of warships tore out of hyperspace, surrounding the system like an iron net. The Vornis's crew cheered weakly, their fear giving way to hope. The Admiral's flagship, the Imperial Hammer, dwarfed even the largest cruiser. Its presence was meant to silence doubt, to remind all that the Empire was unshakable. On the bridge of the Vornis, Commander Cyril straightened his uniform and tried to mask the unease in his chest. He opened the channel immediately. "Admiral, the enemy is—" "I see it." Admiral Terran's voice cut sharp, cold. "One ship cannot hold this system. You allowed fear to spread among your crew. I'll end this quickly." But as his words left the channel, the scanners screamed again. The Eternal Resolve had not moved. It simply waited, like a hunter watching its prey walk closer. And behind it, the others had arrived. 15 more giants of war. The Imperial Hammer's bridge must have gone silent too. Every Imperial officer in the system now saw what Cyril's crew had already witnessed. The humans had not returned with a relic. They had returned with a fleet. "Impossible," one of Cyril's officers whispered. "That many ships should not exist. Not after all this time." The comms filled with Admiral Terran's voice again, but this time his tone carried strain. "Form battle lines. Carriers, deploy fighters. All ships, shields up. We strike first. The Empire bows to no one." Hundreds of fighters launched from carriers, bright trails cutting across the dark. Imperial destroyers and cruisers moved into formation, weapons armed, engines burning. It was the full might of a battle group, the kind that had crushed rebellions and wiped out entire civilizations. And still, the human ships waited. On the bridge of the Eternal Resolve, a man stood at the center of command. His face was old, lined with years of war and survival. His voice carried across the comms again, deep and unshaken. "So, the Empire sends its hunters. You believe numbers make you strong. But we are the storm that numbers cannot stop." With those words, the human fleet lit up. Weapons long hidden powered on, glowing with ancient fire. The Eternal Resolve moved forward, leading the charge. The first clash came like thunder. Imperial fighters swarmed the humans, but their cannons cut through them like blades through paper. Entire squadrons vanished in flashes of light. Imperial cruisers opened fire, beams and plasma streaking across the void, hammering against the human warships. But the human shields, layered and reinforced with forgotten technology, held strong. Then the humans fired back. From the Eternal Resolve's cannons, beams wider than Imperial cruisers ripped through the battle line. One destroyer shattered instantly, a fireball tearing across space. Another lost half its hull, drifting helplessly. The other human ships joined, unleashing missiles that moved like hunters, weaving past defenses and slamming into their targets with earth-shaking force. On the Vornis, the crew watched in stunned silence. This was not a battle. It was slaughter. Relis turned to Cyril, her voice low. "They're not just fighting. They're proving something. They want the Empire to remember." Cyril clenched his fists. She was right. Every strike, every blast, felt deliberate, like a message carved into the stars. "We are back. We are stronger. Fear us." Admiral Terran's voice thundered across all comms, desperate and furious. "All ships, press the attack. Do not falter." But even his iron command could not hide the truth. For the first time in living memory, the Empire was being pushed back. The Eternal Resolve broke through the battle line, its massive frame tearing into the heart of the fleet. Its cannons lit the darkness, its engines roared like a beast unleashed. And with every shot, more Imperial ships fell. On the bridge of the Vornis, Cyril whispered words he never thought he would say. "We cannot win." The Empire had spotted a ship that should not exist. Now, their greatest fleet faced an enemy that history said was dead, and the humans were only beginning to show their fury. The battle raged like a storm of fire and metal. The void shook under the clash of two powers, but it was clear who held the strength. The Imperial fleet, proud and vast, was breaking apart under the weight of the human assault. Ship after ship exploded into flames, their wreckage scattering across the stars like shattered bones. On the bridge of the Imperial hammer, Admiral Terran stood tall, but sweat glistened on his brow. Reports poured in, losses climbing, shields failing, fighters destroyed faster than they could be launched. For the first time in his long career, he tasted fear. The humans fought not with desperation, but with calm precision, as if every move had been planned long before the battle began. On the Vornis, Commander Cyril and his crew watched, frozen. The eternal resolve cut through the heart of the battle group like a blade. Its every volley shattered ships that once symbolized the Empire's dominance. Relis whispered, her voice filled with awe and dread, "They're not fighting to survive. They're fighting to show us. They're showing the whole galaxy what humans still are." Her words carried truth. Each strike felt like a declaration, each explosion a message. The humans had not returned quietly. They wanted the Empire, and all who served it, to remember the fear that once echoed in history books. Then, suddenly, the human fleet slowed. Their cannons dimmed, their engines shifted to holding positions. They could have pressed forward, destroying the Imperial hammer and the rest of the fleet. But they stopped. The comms flared open. A human voice, the same commanding tone from before, filled every Imperial ship. "Empire of Chains, hear this. We did not come to conquer. We came to remind you. You buried us in lies, erased our name from your records, called us extinct. But you knew the truth. You feared us so deeply, you pretended we were gone." Silence filled the bridges of every Imperial ship. Soldiers, officers, even Admiral Terran himself stood still, listening. The human continued, his voice rising like a hammer. "We were never gone. We hid in the shadows you thought safe, we built in silence while you grew arrogant. We return now, not as broken survivors, but as the storm you thought you had killed. And we will not kneel." The weight of the words struck deeper than any weapon. It was not just about war. It was about history itself. Humanity had not only survived, they had prepared. Admiral Terran forced his voice across the channel, though it shook with fury. "You think you can threaten the Empire with myths and relics? We will gather more fleets. We will bring fire enough to burn every ship you hide behind." The human laughed, low and bitter. "Do you think this is all we have? You see 16 ships. Do you imagine we stopped here? This is only a glimpse of what waits. You cannot gather fleets fast enough. We have been waiting longer than your empire has lived." On the Vornis, Cyril felt his chest tighten. If this was true, if more fleets waited in the dark, then the Empire faced not just a battle, but a war unlike any in its history. The human's voice grew colder. "We return for justice. For every world you enslaved, for every species you broke, for every lie you told about us. The galaxy will know what humans are. Not myths. Not extinct. But the reckoning you cannot escape." The transmission ended. The human fleet held their position, weapons still armed but silent, daring the Empire to strike again. Inside the Imperial hammer, Admiral Terran's hands trembled against the railing. He wanted to order another attack, to drown the humans in fire. But he knew, the fleet could not withstand another strike. Not today. And so the two forces stared at each other in the endless dark, the silence louder than war. The Empire had spotted a ship that should not exist. Now it faced a fleet that carried not only weapons, but the weight of vengeance. And behind them, perhaps even greater shadows waited, ready to rise. The battlefield hung silent after the storm. Wreckage drifted everywhere, glowing embers of broken Imperial ships painting the void in faint red. The human fleet stood untouched, their colossal warships lined in formation like an iron wall. They had stopped firing, but their presence pressed on every Imperial heart heavier than any weapon. On the Imperial hammer, Admiral Terran's jaw was clenched so tightly it hurt. His fleet, his pride, was in ruins. Yet he could not order another attack. The humans had shown mercy by halting their fire. To press forward now would mean complete destruction. For the first time, an Imperial admiral hesitated. On the Vornis, Commander Cyril's crew watched the standoff with wide eyes. No one spoke. Even Relis, usually steady, only whispered, "Sir, if this is only the beginning, the Empire has no idea what it is walking into." Cyril didn't answer. His thoughts churned like a storm. Humanity was back. Stronger, sharper, more prepared than anyone believed. And the Empire had been caught blind. Finally, Admiral Terran gave the order no one expected. "All ships, fall back. We regroup outside the system." The words hit the bridge of every Imperial vessel like a shockwave. Retreat. The Empire never retreated. Yet here, before these impossible human warships, there was no choice. One by one, Imperial ships turned away, their engines flaring as they limped out of the battlefield. The Vornis followed, its crew silent, their pride broken. Behind them, the human fleet did not pursue. They simply watched, their guns glowing faintly, daring the Empire to test them again. As the Imperial ships jumped into hyperspace, silence filled the stars. Humanity had claimed the system without conquering it. They didn't need to. Their message was already written in fire and wreckage. News traveled faster than fleets. Whispers spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Smugglers, traders and spies carried the story. The humans have returned. They destroyed an Imperial battle group. They are building fleets in the dark. On distant worlds, oppressed species lifted their heads, hope flickering in their eyes. If the humans were back, maybe the Empire could be challenged. Maybe freedom was not just a dream. Inside the Imperial capital, the High Council raged when they heard the report. They called Admiral Terran a coward, demanded explanations, ordered fleets to double their patrols. But beneath their anger was fear. The Empire had written humanity as extinct. To admit they had survived meant admitting weakness. On the Vornis, Cyril walked the quiet halls of his ship. His crew avoided his eyes. They were alive, yes, but they had seen the impossible. They had seen the Empire retreat. He paused at a viewport, staring into the stars where the human fleet still waited. Relis approached quietly. "Sir, do you believe them? That they have more ships?" Cyril's throat tightened. "If they can build one fleet in silence, they can build many. We will not face ghosts next time. We will face an army." She nodded slowly. "Then the galaxy will change." In the depths of space, on the bridge of the Eternal Resolve, the human commander stood surrounded by his officers. His eyes burned with grim purpose. "They will come again," one officer said. The commander nodded. "Of course they will. Empires do not accept fear easily. But let them come. With every battle, our name will spread. With every strike, the galaxy will remember who we are." He turned to the stars, his voice steady, carrying the weight of centuries. "We were erased. Now we write our story in fire." And so the silence before the storm deepened. The Empire had retreated. The galaxy had begun to whisper. And humanity, long buried in lies, had stepped back into the light. The galaxy no longer slept. From the smallest mining outpost to the grand halls of the Imperial capital, one name burned in whispers and fear: humans. The story spread faster than fleets could fly. Traders swore they had seen ancient warships rise from the dark, stronger than anything the Empire commanded. Refugees from border worlds whispered of humans sending envoys, offering protection against Imperial chains. Even species long broken by slavery began to stir with dangerous hope. Inside the Imperial Council chamber, the lords of the Empire argued in fury. "They are only shadows of the past," one barked. "They destroyed a full battle group," another shouted. "They must be hunted before their name spreads further." But beneath their shouting was fear they could not speak aloud. The humans had shown power the Empire could not match. And worse, the humans had shown mercy. They had spared Admiral Terran's fleet when they could have ended it. Mercy was more dangerous than destruction, for it sowed doubt in the Empire's strength. Admiral Terran himself stood silent as the Council raged. He had seen the human fleet with his own eyes. He had felt their fire break his ships apart as easily as dry wood. He knew the truth no one here wanted to face. Another battle would not end in victory. Far from the capital, in the hidden command of the Eternal Resolve, the human leaders gathered. Their fleet floated in the dark like giants at rest, engines humming with restrained power. An officer turned to the commander. "The Empire will return. We bloodied them, and now their pride will not let this go." The commander's eyes were sharp, steady. "Good. Pride blinds them. Pride will drive them into our hands." He stood before the vast viewport, where the wreckage of Imperial ships still drifted in silence. His voice carried to every officer present. "For centuries, we were thought gone, erased, forgotten. But in the shadows, we built. We waited. We endured. We return now not only to survive, but to lead. The Empire believes itself eternal. Soon, the galaxy will see otherwise." The humans did not cheer. They did not shout. They only stood in silence, their eyes burning with purpose. These were not the cries of rebels. These were the vows of a people returning to claim their place. Meanwhile, on the Vornis, Commander Cyril sat in his quarters, staring at his reflection. His face looked older, worn. The battle had changed him. His loyalty to the Empire remained, but doubt gnawed at his heart. He remembered Relis's words, "They're not fighting to survive. They're fighting to show us." He closed his eyes. The truth was clear now. Humanity had not only survived, they had chosen their moment with care. They were not simply a threat. They were the beginning of something larger. Something the Empire might not be able to stop. And then, the final signal came. Every Imperial sensor, every network, every channel across the stars carried the same message. It did not come from smugglers, or spies, or whispers. It came from the humans themselves. The face of the human commander filled every screen. His voice echoed across 1,000 worlds. "We are humanity. We were never extinct. We were never broken. You buried us in lies, but we endured. And now, we rise again. To the enslaved, to the broken, to the lost, you are not alone. To the Empire, you are not eternal. We are the storm you feared, and we are here." The galaxy erupted. For some, the message was hope. For others, it was terror. But no one could ignore it. On the bridge of the Vornis, Cyril stood with his crew as the message ended. Silence fell. Then Relis whispered the words that burned into every soul who heard them. "The age of the Empire is ending. The age of humans has begun." In the dark beyond the stars, more shadows stirred, fleets unseen, waiting for the signal. The Empire had spotted a ship that should not exist. But what they found was more than a ship. It was the return of a legend, and it was closing fast.